everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel. I had a couple people mention to me that with their cardstock that they used, I recommend the Accent Opaque, that there was a creasing problem. So it was kind of breaking on the edges. So I thought, let me experiment. And so I got into my craft room and I did some playing around, and then what followed was a whole bunch of other ideas and tips and tricks that were coming to my mind that I really wanted to share, because I feel like it'll save you some time and you can take some shortcuts or just think of things a little bit outside of the norm, which will help you use your supplies in a different way. And aren't we always looking for that? So let's get into the video. Okay, first up and right out the gate, let's look at how to fix this huge problem. So right here on the top, you're going to see that cardstock is awful. It is cracking. It is just weird looking. And on the bottom or on the right side, you're going to see that it's smooth and beautiful. And so how are we going to make that happen? Well, when you are scoring your cardstock, if you fold it towards you, inside towards you, you're going to get that cracking. So this is 100-pound Accent Opaque cardstock that I'm using and demonstrating with. What you want to do is you want to score it and you want to fold it away. Okay, so that is going to give you that smooth look. Now, I highly recommend a scoreboard when you are scoring your cardstock. Otherwise, you're going to get kind of creasing on that heavy cardstock everywhere. So let's just assume you're using a scoreboard and you're using this method. So we're going to watch it again. You're going to put your cardstock in there. I'm scoring at 5.5. I'm going to score down and I'm going to fold away. All right, so you want to score it away. All right, we want to keep those creases away. That's how we're going to remember to do it. Don't fold it towards you, fold it away from you. So once you do that, you want to reinforce it with a bone folder, and I've done both, and here I'm showing you the cracked edge and the top edge or the smooth edge. But you can fix this. So if you've done that, you can just fold it right over and voila, it's smooth. So if you make that mistake and you notice it's cracking, just flip it around. That's it. And then reinforce it again with the score tool or a bone folder or whatever you have, and you are golden. All right, let's move into our next problem that we have to solve, and that is putting cardstock or card panels on card bases straight. Anyone else suffer from that? So I'm going to be using this new to me scrapbook.com dot adhesive. It's the first of a couple options for us to be able to place down our card panels straight. So I'm going to use that because it's a little bit more removable than other tape runners. So I'm going to place it down. I'm going to assume that it's good, and then I look at it and I say, no, it's garbage, pull it off. And we're going to try again. That was for demo purposes, although it wasn't straight, if I'm being honest. And then I'm just going to place it right down again, and it's going to hold. So I was really impressed with these scrapbook.com tape runner adhesives. I think they work really well. I just checked on that card and it is stuck like Chuck. Now let's move on to a different technique to get your stuff down straight. Now I've showed this in a previous hack video, but if you have something that has a grooved edge, something you can lay your card base into, I'm just using my Misty here, but anything, think outside of what I'm showing you and think of things that you are able to kind of lay into because it has an edge. Maybe a T-square ruler that's really sturdy. That might work. So just try to think of that. Now I'm using this other tape runner here. This is still by scrapbook.com, but it's a little bit different one. I usually use liquid adhesive for most of my projects, but there is definitely some space in my room for a tape runner. There's different techniques that you can use with them, and sometimes people don't like the globbiness. So right there, you kind of saw I placed down my card base, and then I placed my card panel directly in the corner, and it lined up perfectly. I didn't even have to think about it. It was done for me. So let's move on to the next thing. The next option for laying stuff down straight is back to what I'm a huge fan of, and that is liquid adhesive. So liquid adhesive gives you some wiggle room. I really like that. Now I'm using Barely Art glue, which the thinner you put it on, the less wiggle room you have, because if there's a little bit of a thicker layer, you're going to have a little more glue to kind of smush around and move, but you still have some time to get your cardstock straight. The last option is to just give up completely and place your card panel haphazardly and crooked on your card base. Now, of course, this will work best if it is a smaller panel on the front, because it's an obvious choice that you're making here to put this on crooked. But sometimes you just got to do it because, you know, we don't need to be stressed here in the craft room. And if that's stressing you out, cut down your panels and lay them on crooked. Let's move into our next problem we're going to solve. And that is that I've used watercolor cardstock, but I'm having bright white card bases and they don't match. And I don't like that look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out some neutral colors. Now I would recommend just keeping one pack or more if you use it, but I just have a small pack of neutral colors that I can keep for instances like this where I can place that and make a little background so that it kind of highlights the front of my card panel without distracting the receiver from the lack of matching, if you will. You can also make your card panels the exact size of your card bases, and there's much less of a notice from the different colors. But I am opting to put down a nice little backing or frame behind this cardstock, and I just think the black really pops and the gray just gives it a nice subtle look. Now the second problem that I'm going to solve with these particular cards is the warping. They are on watercolor cardstock, and I find that when I'm using that cardstock, it does warp no matter what I do. There's a couple things you can do. Before you start decorating your cardstock, you can run it through your die cutting machine and that will flatten it out. You can lay it on some heavy things that might flatten it out, but I didn't, and now I'm in a pickle because my card base is not straight. So I'm going to take some double-sided adhesive. This is the 2-inch, and I'm going to lay it on top of some craft foam. Now I buy my craft foam in large amounts because I find that it's cheaper that way, and I do like to put dimension on quite a bit of things, and so I just purchased a big bulk. All of the stuff I'm showing here in this video will be below in the description. But I also had the option, can I use this from scrapbook.com? And good gracious me, that is huge. It's too big, I can't use it for this, but it's brilliant for some slimline cards and some other things. Now I am cutting down just the side here because I had a little excess, and with this foam I am certain this is going to work, right? So here's my warping. You can kind of see it's bent. So what I'm going to do, and the placement does sort of matter, so you want to make sure you're paying attention to that. What I mean is I'm going to pull off the backing from my scrapbook.com adhesive, and I'm going to turn my card panel to the left. So let's make it horizontal. And now I'm going to kind of roll my foam tape or my double-sided adhesive over it. I don't want it to stay buckled underneath what I'm doing, or else I'm just going to have a buckled look. So I hope that makes sense. But then I'm going to do the other side here. I'm going to pull off the release paper, and now I'm going to place it on top of my black card paneling behind it, right? There's my, I've gone blonde in case you haven't noticed. So I'm going to keep that in there just because, and I'm getting it all aligned. Now, one thing I did do is on the left-hand side, you can see the placement of my hand. I'm actually using my fingers as a guide to make sure that that lines up centered on the black cardstock. So I'm kind of pinching it on the left with my fingers, and I'm lining that up with the top and side so I can make sure that that gets as close as possible. Now I'm just going to use some liquid adhesive because we're all de-warped, and I'm going to put that onto my card base, and now we have a perfectly flattened card. So the other option, if you want to skip the foam, you can do that, and you can just go straight to the double-sided adhesive. And I wanted to pull out the thinner in case you have thinner double-sided adhesive. You certainly can do that as well. It doesn't really matter the thickness. I think the closer you can get to covering the full back, the better your result is going to be from de-warping your cardstock. So that is something that I found. But now I'm going to just pull off the release paper, place it down. You can see my left hand is kind of guiding where I should line it up. That's another kind of tip or trick to getting really close to perfect placement. Okay, so now we are de-warping as we go. Once I place that on my card base, we are going to be just too cool for school. All right, so it's good to go. Let's move on to the next problem. kind of. So we'll talk about that because I know I have some A2 size cards that I like to put big chunky sentiments on, but I run into space issues. So let's talk about that. I have all my alphabet dies organized in this. I showed this in a recent hack video. You can check that out. It'll be linked at the end. But I wanted to pull out some of my chunky letters. I don't know what it is about this particular set. This is the bold basic, but it's just so fun. It's just fun, and it brings a blank card, really just makes it pop. So I am excited about getting my own sentiment. I'm going to make up the sentiment, and it's going to be a kind of a wow piece of the front of the card panel. So I'm picking out my letters here. This comes in the alphabet, the uppercase and lowercase for the bold basics. So I'm getting all my letters out, and now I'm going to do some die cutting. So I'm placing down on my magic mat. So the sandwich for this, in case you're curious, is a cutting plate, the magic mat, the items you wish to cut, and then a cutting plate. And so bask in the glory that is non-warped plates right now with me. I just pulled out all 3 of these are brand new, and it's like Christmas. It's like I don't even have to put the tape down if I didn't want to hold it in place because everything is straight. So I make sure that I'm going to show you right here. This is what I do after I'm done. I place down the opposite of the plates, then the magic mat again. I turn it over, and I flip all my plates before I put them into my drawer. So that's a little additional trick to help keep the life of your plates from warping. All right, now I'm going to remove all my letters, and if you don't try this, you're just not living. You just got to smack your dies straight onto your mat, your glass mat, and they'll come flying out. It's super fun. Or you can use a little picker tool, and those dots are specifically, those holes in your die are there for a reason, so you can pick them out without taking out your aggression on your dies or your mat. So I'm going to get all of those pieces released and ready for placement. Now this first problem to solve is getting your sentiments or your letters lined up straight. So the first tip I have is a T-square ruler, and if you don't have one of these, I do recommend a tool like this in your craft space. I find it very useful, but I'm going to first just lay down my letters where I think I want them, and we're going to pull back over that that ruler, and we are going to work on getting everything lined up straight. Right, so this is the first problem I'm trying to solve here, quote unquote, would be straight letters. All right, so I'm using a T-square ruler. You can definitely eyeball this. You can also take a piece of low-tack tape and lay it all the way across your card panel, lining up with your mat underneath, and that will help you with placements. You don't need a T-square ruler by any means, but that's another option. You can just lay out a piece of tape. That's a quick hack. All right, I'm going to lay down the first. Now, I have to say, I don't know what I would do without my tweezers. If you are on the fence about getting tweezers for your space, I do recommend these reverse tweezers. So kind of like, you have to squeeze them to let it go. I really like them. I've used them to just get my fingers out of the way. It just makes things easy. So I'm going to, again, just line them up. So easy, easy, easy. All right, that's the first quote unquote problem we're trying to solve here with this card front. The second one would be not having space for all my chunky letters. So I want to recommend and suggest that you not only, again, we're going to let go of things being straight here on this card because I'm going to put Friday wonky, but I would let go of that. But then also try doubling up, or not doubling up, but laying your letters on top of one another, sort of where they overlap. That saves a lot of space. And I think it's fun, it's whimsical, it's, kind of youthful. I just really like the way that looks. I didn't like where my Y was, so I pulled it up, and I am going to just replace it down. But this was the sentiment I came up with. It's Friday, and I feel like it would be super fun to give one of my friends who is obsessed with French fries. So I thought that was cute. Now I am about to make some marks on my card. So I pulled out my little chisel marker here. This one's from Arteza, and I went to practice. You saw what I did. I just pulled out some scratch paper and I practiced how I wanted this to look first. I felt a chisel marker would be my best bet to do this, but if you have good, nice handwriting, I'm sure you'll be fine. But I used this and I like the way that it came out. So I wanted to make it known that I wasn't misspelling Friday. That there is a break in that word, but I think my friend might like it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. As always, I appreciate you being here. I don't think I tell you that enough, so I want to make sure that I take the time to do that. I love coming to my channel and reading your comments and just having that community and that dialogue. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you so much. I also wanted to share that I am building up my crafting Instagram. So if you would want to link up with me there, you can find the link right below in the description box. I plan on building that up quite a bit, and I think it's a little bit faster of communication when it comes to me wanting to share things. I'm also building an email list, but that's to come. That's taking a little longer than I like. So there's that. But anyway, I will see you all in the comments down below and in the next video. Bye-bye.